What's going on, Jets fans? Welcome back to another video here on Pig City Hockey, and today we're going to be talking about trade rumors again, because why not? It's the most interesting time of the year. The Winnipeg Jets are #1 in the NHL, and they are an absolute wagon. And what do absolute wagons do? Well, they usually add even more talent in their pursuit of Lord Stanley himself, and that is what I think the Winnipeg Jets and Kevin Cheveldayoff in particular will be doing coming up into the NHL trade deadline. You know, when you look at the years past, the Jets have made some big acquisitions, and in my last video, we talked about guys within the fan base that people really want to see be added to this Winnipeg Jets team, where on this video we're going to be talking more about the asking price for some of the more realistic targets for the Winnipeg Jets this year. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't already done so to stay up to date with all things Winnipeg Jets, because like I said, we've got some really interesting news coming out from the hockey writers recently, talking about just some asking price for some potential, guys the Jets will be looking at right there. And we're talking more in particular about Lindholm and Monahan. As you can see right there, the asking price for Lindholm is believed to be a first-round equivalent and a top young player and another asset, whereas for Monahan is a first-round pick or a second-round pick and a prospect. So a very steep asking price for a second-line center, And when you look at the Jets' history in the past, they really haven't dealt that many first-round picks, outside of the Kevin Hayes deal, the Paul Stastny deal, swapping to get Logan Stanley, and as well as, in the expansion draft with Vegas, that draft pick, might as well add, turned into Nick Suzuki, so yeah, ouch. But either that, the Jets have not been a team where they've made giant splashes, and, you even look at the last bit of trades that they've made. Nino Niederreiter acquired for a second, Vlad Namestnikov acquired for a fourth. These guys have made huge impacts this year and are definitely difference makers, and again, guys that did not cost a lot. So when I look at these prices, even though I think that for a guy like Lindholm, for example, I think he would fit in extremely well on this team. I think he could be very versatile for the top six. You look at the points that he's been able to put up so far with Calgary as well. I think he would really mesh in well with some of the top six guys. This season in 43 games played, 28 points, 8 goals, 20 assists. Even his advanced analytics, he's been a very consistent second line guy, and I think that he would really slot in well with this Winnipeg Jets team. And, putting him maybe on a line down there with Perfetti, and like maybe a bit more of a power forward type line like that with some heavy hitting and some, a lot of puck possession, stuff like that, could really help elevate the Jets to even more of a competitive level, and this is with a team that just got Kyle Connor back. I know Mark Scheifele's out with injury, but, look at how good Kyle Connor was. People made such a big stink about Nikolai Ehlers dropping off that top line for Kyle Connor, and you look at how good Kyle Connor is, and I think if you bring in even more talent and you add that second line center, you could see 2 first lines. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters to me, is rolling out a competitive hockey team, the most elite hockey team that you can. And it doesn't matter first or second line, because when you have elite personnel on it, that's a first line in my opinion. And that's what the Jets kind of have. And adding a second line center like Lindholm, or, even like a Monahan. And again, I'm not the biggest fan of Monahan. Like, especially now. Like, I've talked about this in the last video, about how he's kind of become more of, in my opinion, a bottom sixer. Like, he's being used extremely, in a lot of extreme situations in Montreal, because they're trying to trade him. They're trying to get that trade value up, like his advanced stats are not good just because he's able to finish and get some points because he's, on the power play getting opportunity. Monahan is definitely thriving, I would say, point wise in Montreal, but I don't know if that's going to be something that we consistently see post him getting traded. Like, I really do believe that Montreal is really boosting him up, and this isn't a knock on Habs fans. Like, I think Monahan's a very capable player that will be, added to a cup contending team without a doubt, but I don't know if that's the guy that the Jets want to really pursue, especially for a price of a first or a second round pick with a prospect. I think that's a little steep for Sean Monahan. I don't think that he necessarily is going to be that guy for the Jets. And again, I could be completely wrong. You might have a completely different take on that, but he's had problems with his hip. He's getting up there in age. I just don't think Monahan overall is the best fit, and I know that they're going to be looking at a pure rental, and I know that these prices are insanely high, and that's probably what you're thinking about more than anything is, a first for a guy like Lindholm with a second and another prospect. That is a huge top tier trade for a second line center. Well, just remember what Kevin Cheveldayoff was able to get for Andrew Kopp in the New York Rangers trade. I know it was a conditional first that the Jets would end up getting, but a conditional first round pick that turned into that first. They got a first, a second, a fifth, and Morgan Barron for Andrew Kopp. Like, that is an absolute insane haul, and I know Andrew Kopp, is a good player, but again, to this day, I think that might be one of Chevy's most absolute robberies. When even the Dubois trade, absolutely insane what he was able to get. But for a guy like Kopp to get that many assets in return. I know Morgan Barron's on the 4th line, but the guy's still got 8 goals in the season so far, so can't knock a guy with 8 goals. You know, that's not bad, especially with playing only 8 minutes of ice time. So again, this is a Jets team that's extremely deep, and we're starting to see a lot more information come out about what these guys are going to be wanting. You know, the cap's going up. You look at how many good teams there are this year that have a couple, you know, weak spots, not weaknesses, but definitely weaker spots in the lineup. You know, the Canucks are going to be looking to add talent as well. You know, the Jets are going to be doing the same thing. You know, Toronto probably will be wanting to add something as well. You know, they're having a bad time right now with goaltending. They're going to be looking to do things well. A lot of teams this year are going to be looking to add, and those are just some 3 of some Canadian teams I added. I haven't even got into the American teams, you know, that are playing so good down there as usual. So this is going to be a very active trade deadline, I think, because a lot of teams right now, there isn't a lot of separation between, you know, how good they really, like, it's so tight in the standings. So at the end of the day, I really think it would make sense for the Jets to go out there and add talent, especially this year. You know, I know when you look at the past, like I said, last year you acquired Nino Niederreiter before the deadline and Vlad Nemestikov. Both of those guys didn't really get a chance to make a massive impact, I would say, last year. Like, they were good, do not get me wrong, but, you know, I feel like their value to this club has definitely been, you know, seen more this year especially with the extensions and all that, than it was last year after the trade. And that's okay, because last year was kind of like a will they won't they season, and this year, completely different, not polar side of that, right? You know, you have the team being first in the league, battling night in and night out, winning consistently, and I think that this is the year that you really go all out. I think that if you're going to try to win that cup, if you're going to try to make that deep run for the first time since 2017-18, I think you go for it. I think you have to add some talent. I know these are just 2 guys, but again, in that video, I talked about Claude Giroux, my last trades video, we talked about Claude Giroux. Now, he's got a no movement clause, so he's going to have to waive that. You know, a lot of fans want Sean Couturier. Well, Philadelphia's playing great, and again, massive contract until like 2030 or 2028, if I'm not mistaken, and he's got a no movement clause. Like, these are guys I understand why the fan base wants, but they're just completely unrealistic. Whereas guys like Lindholm, like Monahan, they might have their flaws, but they have, you know, they have value, and they're legitimate rentals. So whereas the asking price for these guys might be insanely high right now, I don't necessarily think Chevy will pay it. But at the same time, like I said, you know, you look at what Andrew Kopp went for, and Chevy held out on Kopp until like almost the last hour of that deadline. I think he was traded within half an hour before the deadline was over. So, you know, he waited that long and he got that much of a return. So at the end of the day, if Calgary wants to hold on to Lindholm, if Monahan, if the Habs hold on to Monahan, they could probably get what they're asking for. There will be teams desperate enough to add talent, especially to the top 6 this year, and I think that will be definitely something that, you know, not only will the Jets be trying to do, but a lot of other teams will as well. So at the end of the day, the asking price is steep for these guys, but I think that with the way the Jets prospect cabinet is right now, you know, with how many guys they have that are on the cusp of making the NHL with the Moose right now, I think you can afford to maybe let one prospect go in the hopes of having a deep run this year. Plus, you have Brad Lambert coming up next year. You've got, you know, a guy like Nikita Cheburkov. Like, these are guys who are very, very close to being in the NHL and getting a look seriously. And I know they're exploding right now with their first full year. You know, Cheburkov was a rookie in the AHL, but still, nonetheless, these guys are playing great hockey on an inconsistent Moose team, so I think the Jets could make a move. I think they could trade some of these prospects, and I think they should add. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. As always, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already to stay up to date with all things Winnipeg Jets hockey. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well, and check out all the other affiliate links down in the description below. Peace and positivity as always. Go Jets, go. It'll all be over. It'll all be over.